Cool. What's up, everybody? Andy Mkosi here, and this is Behind the Frame, a video series where we go into depth with my photography. But in particular now, I want to talk about a job that I recently did with a brilliant team of videographers and extra assistants. I've never worked with Umdu before, who is a helping hand for me when it comes to photography. It's like photography for me has always been like an isolated thing that I do by myself. But this time around, we got a client that required that had an extensive brief, which required and wanted extra hands. So I reached out to my brother's friend, Ali, who has been like such an exceptional assistance throughout the 5 days. But I won't really get into my particular experience, but I think there's value in hearing out how the rest of the team worked with one another and how it was for them to build up and work towards this brief that the client had for us. So Anthony is going to come through and let you know what his experience was. He was part of the media team from the videography side. Mr. Tate, we hope you get well. You one soldier down on the last day, but it was fantastic working with you. Mihlali as well, shout outs to you. Shout outs to Tselani too, whom we worked closely with. And I just want to say, man, for me, my main takeaway is that have systems and work with teams always. Booyah. All right, Anthony, please introduce yourself and tell me a bit about the work that you do and what you were doing here.
I am Anthony Sikanadze. I'm actually from Joburg, a freelance videographer with my own company. I do videography mainly, but I also offer photography as a service. Most of my clients that I've built my portfolio around have been in the event space and DJing space. So a lot of my portfolio is based around that work. But I've also done a few other projects like corporate events, interviews, podcasts. My portfolio is a bit different, but I'm looking to focus my attention more on corporate gigs. I think everybody else is, but that's really my focus. And today it's actually my last day working with the AMALI team. I was shooting the AMALI 2025 mayor cohort, which is basically an establishment that hosts a workshop for African mayors around Africa, of course. And I was basically doing the videography for the whole program. Videography including short clips and scenes to make an after movie, but also to do interviews with some of the mayors and presentations that they would do at the end of the program. So that's basically why I'm here.
Okay, Anthony, so going into the job, what were your thoughts? And we're at the end, what are you feeling now?
So going into this job, I was first of all excited because this is kind of the direction I wanted to go into. So to start the year with that in January for 2025 was really something exciting for me. I think once I secured the job, then it was basically planning for the job. And because I'd worked with this client prior to this with just editing, I know how they work and how they deal with things. So that was a bit nerve-wracking from my side because they are quite strict and have specific requirements for their work. So I was on either side of the spectrum with happy and kind of scared and stressed, if I can say that. But I knew I could do the job. I don't think there was a doubt about that. I think it was just nerves on delivering exactly what the client wanted. So basically, once that was confirmed, I prepared for the job. Had to prepare for traveling because obviously I'm based in Joburg. I had to come down to Cape Town. So I had to make sure that was done in time. I had to make sure my accommodation was done. I had to make sure the equipment that was required was done. And for that, I was very strict about the requirements with the client. Fortunately enough, there was a pretty detailed SLA, which I made sure as soon as I received that I was able to set up a meeting with the client and any other party that was involved in the project to make sure that I understood what they needed, how they wanted it, and to make sure that I could get it to them specifically. So if there was anything on that SLA that I didn't feel comfortable doing, or that I think might have been a challenge to deliver, at least I would know in time to kind of prepare for that. And yeah, I think once the job was confirmed, had to prepare the equipment, and I don't think it was too hard to kind of prepare the equipment, because with each target that was required on the SLA, I was able to identify what I needed specifically to deliver that final product to the client. So that's kind of how I planned out the equipment I would need. I looked at what the client wanted, understood what they wanted and how they wanted it, and then planned around the equipment that I was looking to get to deliver that product. Then obviously I came here on, today is Thursday, the 30th. Yeah, 30th. And I got here on the last Saturday, around Friday, Saturday. And yeah, then basically got in contact with the client, did the site visit, checked out everything, just made sure that everything that I had planned for was basically what I'll be able to use, and also just checked out the environment to see if all my equipment would work, and if I needed anything extra like power cables or whatever the case may be. Also, side note, I traveled with everything from Joburg to Cape Town.
Sorry to cut you, what does that entail? Like at the airport, do you have to check it in with like is it like fragile stuff? Because I'm guessing the lights, tripods, etc.
Yeah, so basically, this also gave me an opportunity to really look at like airlines. I think for the longest time I've been using Fly Safe, if I can say that. But yeah, and Fly Safe is very like relatively cheap. It's usually the cheaper airline that you'd find. But this time around, I have been flying Fly Safe. Like I flew with them quite a bit last year, and I noticed that there were some things that they would kind of catch you out with. One of those things is luggage. So for example, you can buy a plane ticket, it's cheap, but you're not allowed to like check in baggage, for example, or you only allowed like one hand luggage or whatever the case is. So that already was a navigating point for me. So when I started looking for flights, I checked out FlySafe, Lyft, and Airlink. Just a side note, for anybody who's looking for good flight deals, sometimes check out skyscanner.com. Good resource for flights. But yeah, anyway, so I checked out those flight sites and had a look at what the prices were, and each of them had different packages. So for example, FlySafe would offer you a package with hand luggage only, and then you had an option to add checked in luggage, and then you had an option after that to add an extra bag. When I checked with Lyft and Airlink, they both offered one piece of luggage that you can check in, and then you had an extra piece of luggage that you could add on as well. I ended up going with Lyft specifically because their main price that they offered had one piece of luggage that you could check in, which was included in the price, and it was actually very relative to the FlySafe airfare if you had added a bag on. So it was pretty much the same. And then the only determining factor for me that made me pick Lyft was specifically because the fee that I had to pay for an extra bag, which was where all my equipment was. So I had a suitcase with my clothes, then I had another suitcase just with equipment. That luggage specifically allowed me to add an extra bag at a cheaper fee than what FlySafe was. And out of all of those options, Airlink for me was personally the most expensive at the time when I checked that out. So that was definitely something that I learned. And if it helps you with any of this, that's definitely something that I would say look into quite closely. When I checked in my luggage, let me talk about the baggage that I did take. I had one suitcase, which it was actually quite a big suitcase, and it came up to about like 16 kgs, and you have a total of 23 kgs. So I was way under. That was my clothing, but I had like tripods in that bag also, because the tripods were quite big to fit in the equipment bag. And that was 2 camera tripods and 2 light tripods as well. And then in my other luggage, I had strictly just equipment. So that was like cables, power cables, adapters, HDMI cables, RCA cables. Most of my equipment I had put into that one bag, and that was a fairly smaller suitcase, which also came up to about like I think 12 kgs. So again, I was way under the limit, and that's really how I like planned out my travel gear for this one. Fortunately enough, it didn't go over, but that's relatively what was in my suitcase that I checked in. And then I had hand luggage, which had a laptop, and then my cameras in another bag. That was like all of the luggage that I brought on the flight with me.
So for me, Anthony, like I think the one thing that I took out from this like was the importance of teamwork when it comes to something like this. So how do you select a team that you trust to help you execute a vision like this for a job in a brief like this?
So I personally think I haven't been doing this for much long compared to a lot of the people that I've met, but I have met a lot of people in the industry, specifically like in the event space. And I think for me, the starting point for anybody that I work with, whether that's with videography, photography, relationships, business, friendships, anything for me is always energy first. Like if energy flows, that's a basis for me to actually work with someone in whatever way, shape or form. So for my first determining factor of picking a team is always, always energy. The next thing I think I look at from that point of view is the person's quality of work. That's always like a step. Yourself, you are amazing. Just want to put it as a side note. She is amazing. Please check out her work. She has some amazing material from this event itself. But yeah, so yeah, that's the second thing for me is quality of work. And sometimes like you can get someone that's really, really good, but I look at the work if it can work with me, for example. So like some people can use like Canons, Nikons or whatever the case may be. But like when I'm providing a service, I like to make my work kind of aligned. So like if I'm using a Sony, preferably, I would like to work with somebody who works with the Sony just so that our work can align. So that's definitely something that I look at when I'm looking at quality of work. It's not just how good the work is, but can it match what I'm doing or can I match what they're doing basically? Then the third thing that I definitely look at is business sense. By that I mean like, how does a person do business? Do they understand business? Are they willing to work in a business? Like, can they like talk, negotiate and work together with someone, collaborate, not actually compete? I would definitely say those are the three main things that I look at when I'm picking a team. And for me, I don't think I can have one or the other. Like I have to have all three like in check when I'm working with someone.
Oh man, what's your maybe highlight or takeaway from this particular job? Something that really stands out for you?
Yeah. So before I answer that, I'm going to tell you about where I'm at now. I think I was going to say that where I'm at now after I've done the job. So I think from where I started getting the booking, preparing and everything, and I'm looking at it now, the one thing that I was very like strict about was the client's requirements, because I have experience working on them, not on a production side of view or filming side of view, but more on an editing point of view. So, and they were very like strict and finicky about their stuff. So I was very like aware of that when I was coming on set. And now that the set is done, I think I'm a little bit, my perspective has shifted a little bit. And one of those things was definitely that the client, as much as this client was a bit strict and deliberate about what they wanted, when you're on set, things do change and you have to kind of adapt. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, was that this client was able to recognize that. As much as I tried to prepare them for that and explain to them that, look, we can plan to do this, but it won't happen. It might not happen in that way. The client didn't really understand it until we were on set. And that was the one thing that I think I took away from it. So in as much as this client was very strict and deliberate about what they wanted, and I explained that to them, I think the best part for me was that I was able to still work with the client in a good way, in a respectful way, and still deliver a product that they were happy with at the end of the day. And just to give you some context, I'll explain to you what that was. Basically, for example, I was supposed to do 17 interviews with 17 mayors. The first deliverable was actually in the first 2 days of the conference, which were, or the first 3 days actually. So we had the Sunday dinner, which was out for interviews, but it was supposed to start on Monday during the day or during the lunch break. And then the second batch of interviews was supposed to happen on Tuesday. Now, when I met the client on Sunday, the client, after seeing all the mayors and seeing how they talk and how they interact, the client then said to me, look, I don't think the mayors are going to be ready for interviews tomorrow. I think we're going to need to push that out to Tuesday. And again, as much as I had planned to set up and bring certain gear for Monday, I adjusted my plan. But also in that, the client specifically told me that we'll need to change the plan, which was a very important fact for me, so that they also understand that the deliverables are going to shift. And even then, when we still did that, I also notified the client during the briefing session in the beginning that if they want me to shoot all of the 17 mayors in the lunch breaks between Monday and Tuesday, that only gives me a specific amount of time to actually shoot them. So just on average, I took like an average of filming each mayor for 10 minutes. So if I'm filming 17 mayors in 10 minutes, and that's like kind of worst case scenario, because the mayor might need to rehearse or prepare, or maybe we can't get them on site. But let's just take 10 minutes as an example. 10 minutes times 17 mayors, that's 170 minutes, which is just under 3 hours. So for me to film 17 mayors in 2 hours, which is a 1 hour lunch break on Monday and a 1 hour lunch break on Tuesday, it's almost next to impossible. And I did highlight that to the client. So I think when we got to Sunday, they also realized that it's going to be a bit difficult for us to get that, because first of all, the lunch break is used for the mayors to actually eat food primarily. So most likely than not, these mayors are going to be sitting and eating food. And secondly, it's also a challenge to get these mayors to agree to come and take the interview at that point in time. So realistically, I only had about 30 minutes on Monday and Tuesday, or call it the rest of the week during the lunch breaks, to actually shoot these interviews. So that was like a very good example of SLA outcomes that were set at the beginning of the project that very much shifted during the project as we went along. And I think the best thing I took away from that was learning how to experience that with the client, work with the client, and also just speak to the client on how we can handle this and adapting to the changes as we go along. And I think that was important for me to learn, specifically because I'm looking to go into a more corporate space. I think the biggest thing and the biggest skill you have to have when you're doing that is learning how to work with people and also being patient. You don't always, in as much as some people find it hard to understand your work and what you're doing, you have to understand how to work with people, and specifically people that are not creatives or work with cameras. You need to learn how to explain to them processes, how things work, and a lot of the time the reason for your prices. I think that's the biggest takeaway I had.
No, certainly. I can also admit to that, like the fact that things change and you have to be adaptable and switch up and accommodate for what the situation presents to you. And then any favorite moment, and what would you advise, or what would you do differently for something like this the next time?
Favorite moments was definitely working on this project. On a deeper side, I'm very passionate about Africa as a whole, and it's nice to be involved in a project where we're actually shifting Africa in a positive way. So that for me was definitely a highlight, regardless of working with different people and the stress and whatever. I really just enjoyed working with mayors and hearing their perspectives, seeing how they work from different countries in Africa, places I've never been, some places you've never even heard of, but just to see Africans come together to better themselves for the benefit of Africa, for me, was the best thing about this project. Anything that I would do differently? I think one of the things that threw me off for this project specifically was having a deposit paid upfront for this project. It came through quite late, and because I had to plan traveling, accommodation, equipment beforehand, that made it a bit hard. So I think that was one of the difficult challenges that I faced here. But I think in future, something that I would do differently would definitely be have a discussion around that being done in time and having the client understand why it needs to be done in time. That's something, I mean, I spoke about it, but I don't think they really understood what I meant. But I'm hoping after this project, they actually understand what needs to be done.
Dope. Like that. Yeah, that was very precise. Do you want to say anything else?
Anything else is shout out to Andy, shout out to Mashali for all the help. I appreciate you guys. You guys are dope. I'm so blessed to have met you guys. And yeah, man, let's make art.
Yeah, let's make money.
Let's make money.
Thanks, bro. Sure, Mishaline, just to introduce yourself, Umubani, and the work that you do.
Sure, Andy. Yeah, thanks for having me here again. I don't have words here. But nonetheless, my name is Mishali Mayeza, and I'm from Ekuguletu. But now I currently reside Langa Township, yes, and I'm a performing artist at Rainbow Academy. I'm still a student. And yeah, I do a lot of things as an artist, and I'm looking to grow as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So for Wena Mishali, just from I would say this would have been an internship of sorts for Wena. Can you just talk about that experience? When I first told you about this, what was on your mind? What were your expectations? And what are you thinking now that you've gone through the job in the 5 days?
Hey, when you told me, Andy, I was scared at first. I want to be honest with you, because I've never been in this kind of environment, being part of a photography team. So also what Andy told me is we are dealing with mayors, and what I know, mayors are very important people, stubborn at some times. So I actually thought it was going to be not difficult, but we are more hard. But only to find out it was, I walk in the park for a first timer, because I'm a first timer, as I said, and I really learned a lot from this initiative. So what we were doing, we were photographing this conference, the AMALI City Leadership Conference, I can say. So it's an initiative where mayors from Africa, around Africa, are put together to actually learn and how to grow their cities. Yeah, that's the initiative.
Okay. So, you've gone through the 5 days. How do you feel now? It's the last day. What did you learn? What did you take away? And what stands out for you?
Yeah, I feel like a mayor. I feel like a mayor. Yeah, I feel like a mayor, man. Being surrounded by these important people. I felt important as well. So I actually learned a lot about leadership, being a leader myself, running an organization within arts and culture, and empowering children. So actually, I learned a lot of self-introspection, and I really thought of what kind of leader I want to be. So it's been a good learning curve for me, I can say. Yeah.
Sure, man. anything else you want to say? Like an internship like this, how important do you think it is for someone who's in the arts and just, I mean, this is not like your main like medium, but what can you take from here and use like organization yako and stuff?
Oh, so what I didn't tell you and mention is that within the performing arts side, I am an aspiring director. So I think this kind of internship, I can say, was a great start in this journey that I wanna take of being a director. I learned a lot from the team I worked with. Andy Mkosi, shout out to This Audio is Visual. And thanks again, guys, for having me and allowing me to become a great assistant. I've been assisting the whole team, actually, with the videography guys, Anthony and Mr. Tate, Ethan. I love you guys. Thank you for being open-hearted and open-minded, able to have someone unjengam. Yeah, so I learned a lot, man. Yeah, some I can't express through the words, but Andy knows. Andy knows I'm gonna give her a lot of hugs. Mayor Andy.
Misali for mayor.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, vote for Misali, the mayor of it.
Sure, man. Let's talk. Let's talk. Shout out.